Let's chat about this with N.S. Venkatesh. He's the Chief Executive of Amfi. He's joining us on the show. Mr. Venkatesh, thank you for joining in on the Money Show. Good evening. Equity inflow has dropped to the lowest level since June 2016. This is a headline at a time when the market is an all-time high, and that's definitely not boosting confidence. So what are your thoughts on the slowdown, in equity inflows?
I would say that essentially this, whatever you are seeing, the number coming lower, this is the net flow that we are talking, and essentially this is because of profit booking which would have happened, partly due to the profit booking that would have happened because markets are at an all-time high. So the HNI investments, they would have taken advantage of that and booked their profits. If you look at the SIP numbers are growing steadily upwards only. So to that much extent, I don't see any panic reactions in the market. So I believe that going ahead, we will see, based on the economic reforms that are being put out and the budget expectations that will come up in January onwards, we should actually see the market behaving better and equity inflows into the mutual funds also going up.
Okay, Mr. Venkatesh, the equity inflow along with the balanced category shows a net outflow number. So how concerned are you with this?
It's a fact that it's negative at this particular point of time. But if you look at balance has its own dynamic in the sense that the dividend taxation and all those things are a factor which is affecting the balance funds at this particular point of time. So if let us assume that in the budgets certain recommendations are coming up where essentially the dividend taxation itself gets reduced or maybe abolished, then it will be very positive for the balance funds together. So you will again see renewed flows coming into the balance category, which in turn will push the equity plus the balance funds into the positive territory.
Okay, and let's also then talk about the fact that large and mid-cap categories have been holding one end of the flow, but that too has seen an outflow after 6 months. So what would you attribute the same to?
It is essentially profit booking. People have, because markets are at an all-time high, and it's the large cap stocks which are actually bouncing upper and upper limits. So I think that is where people are saying that let me actually realize those gains instead of those gains remaining in paper. Let me realize those gains, and later I will reassess the situation and re-enter.
Okay, like you mentioned, redemption at profit, at higher levels. So if you could talk a bit more about that, how has the redemption trend been? Anything that happened out of the ordinary in this month?
Not much, not much. Maybe in the balance and hybrid, you saw some outflow happening. But otherwise, I don't see there is very large scale, that sort of a thing which we can tell you. That is whether it's in the contra fund, there also you saw some outflows happening. So essentially, I would say these are all one-off events which will not set a trend at this particular point of time.
Okay. All right, Mr. Venkatesh, thank you so much then for joining us on this edition of the Money Show and breaking down those Amfi numbers for us. Folks, this essentially shows how much money has come into equity mutual funds, and it looks